Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for turning up in your thousands. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen now. First of all, we're going to have Martin Olliott over here, who's a brilliant guitar player and singer-songwriter, and he'll do a spot, and then I'll follow him rabbiting on about something, and then there'll be an interval, and the bar is through these doors here and up little stairs, and it'll be about a quarter of an hour, so do get yourself a drink. And after the interval, I'll rabbit on a bit longer, and then there'll be another interval, and you go through the bar and get a drink, and then Martin will finish the whole thing. So I'd like to introduce, please give a big hand for Martin Olliott. Thank you.
Heart and lungs not at rest, something beating in my chest. It's love, anxiety, and palpitations. Did she run? Did she wait? Did she stop then hesitate? With love, anxiety, and palpitations. When she's here, it's as though she exudes some inner glow. Love, anxiety, and palpitations. One deep breath, then exhale. I'm still interested but pale. With love, anxiety, and palpitations. Oh heart, the dynamo of desire and longing. Lungs, give me the air with which to speak. Brain, won't you engage in forward motion? 'Cause look, here comes my baby, walking down that street. Oh, hands that tremble when I know she's coming. Legs that cannot make a single step. Eyes, you gotta tell me what she's thinking. 'Cause I can't stand not knowing every time we meet. Can I go on all alone? It's no fun when no one's home. With love, anxiety, palpitations. So get a grip, seize the day, because love is on its way. Love, anxiety, love, anxiety, oh love, anxiety, palpitations.
My sister Betty said, I'm going to be a famous actress. Last year she was going to be a missionary. Famous actresses always look unhappy but beautiful, she said, pulling her mouth sideways and making her eyes turn upwards so they're mostly wide. Do I look unhappy but beautiful? I want to go to bed and read, I said. Famous actresses suffer and have hysterics, she said. I've been practicing my hysterics. She began going very red and screaming so it hurt my ears. She hit herself on the head with her fists and rolled off my bed onto the lino. I stood by the wardrobe where it was safer. She got up saying, thank you, and bowed to the four corners of my bedroom. Would you like some encore of hysterics, she asked. No, I said, from inside the wardrobe. There was fluff all over her vest. If you don't clap enthusiastically, she said, I'll put your light out when you're reading. While I clapped a bit, she bowed and shouted, more, more. Auntie Gladys shouted upstairs, go to bed and stop teasing our Betty. The best thing about being a famous actress, Betty said, is that you get to die a lot. She fell to the floor with a crash and lay there for an hour and a half with her eyes staring at the ceiling. She only went away when I said, you really look like a famous actress who's happy but beautiful. When I got into bed and started reading, she came and switched off my light. it's not much fun having a famous actress for assistant. Oh, you know, a lot of the poems that were written at the time didn't write about the way that I remember my own childhood. For example, there were no poems about football. And if they were written by people who never kicked a tennis ball around in the street ever. And this is a poem called Dennis Law. And you can help me out here. Do you remember Dennis Law? I'm not a Manchester United supporter, I hate to add, but I was a great fan of Dennis Law. And you can help me out because when you get, you'll tell by the rhyme that Dennis Law is going to rhyme. And I'd like you all to join in and say, push for Dennis Law. So the poem is called Dennis Law. I live at 14 Stanhope Street, me mum, me dad and me. And three of us have made a gang, John Stokes and Trev and me. Our favourite day is Saturday. We go Old Trafford way and wear red colours in our coats to watch United play. We always stand down the goal in the middle of the roar. The others come to see the game. I come for Dennis Law. His red sleeves slap around his wrists. He's built all thin and raw, but the toughest backs don't stand a chance when the ball's near Dennis Law. He's a whiplash when he's in control. He can swivel like an eel and twist and sprint in such a way it makes defences reel. And when he's hurtling for the goal, I know he's got to score. Defences may stop normal men, they can't stop Dennis Law. We all race home when full-time blows to kick a tennis ball. And Trafford Park is our backyard and the stand is next door's wall. Old Stokesy shouts, I'm Jimmy Greaves, and scores against the door. And Trev shouts, I'll be Charlton, but I am Dennis Law. The difficulty in writing a poem or being a poet of any kind is to find an individual voice, which is not an easy thing to do at all. I wrote a lot of poems to sound as if they were poems by somebody else. You know? And I suddenly remembered when I was at Farmer Road Junior School, 10 or something, the teacher asking us to stand up and give a speech about some enthusiasm we had. And we all looked at the floor and tried to avoid his eye. And one poor boy stood up and told the plot of a horror film. And he mixed every horror film he'd ever seen, completely confused. And I couldn't think of how to write this. I couldn't find the voice. Then about 2 years later, it suddenly struck to me, he'd be from Liverpool. And this is just as how I wrote it straight out, called horror film. So you have to imagine a boy about 10, mixing all these horror films. Some of the films you would have seen, doubtless. Well, sir, first of all, there was this monster, but like he's not really a monster, because in real life he's a bank clerk, sir, and he sings in this village choir, but he keeps like drinking this potion, sir, and you see him like changing his pig with black curly hairs on his knuckles. And what he does, sir, is he goes around eating people's brains. Anyway, before that, sir, I should have said, he's secretly in love with Lady Irene, who's very rich with lots of long frocks. And she has this identical sister who looks like her, sir, who keeps getting chased by this monster bulldog into these sinking sands that are inhabited by this prehistoric squid, sir, which like she can't see because the deaf and dumb bailiff with the ump on his back is travelling her specs. Anyway, before that, sir, I should have said, this Lady Irene is screaming, Henry, Henry, my beloved, save me, because she's been walled up in the dripping dungeon with the mad violence of the vaults by the manservant with the withered boots, sir. But this Henry, he can't hear her, sir. because he's too busy putting people in this bubbling acid bath to make them stay young forever, sir. But his experiments keep going wrong. Anyway, before that, sir, I should have said, a dad can't rescue either, sir, because of the army of giant ants that's eaten his castle. And the music, sir, is going ta-ra, ta-ra, boom, boom, ta-ra, sir. And Henry, my village keeps giving, and the mad violins of the vault starts going funny all over the flagstones. And like Algernon said, no, not him, sir, the other one. He can't do nothing about the squid in the box because he's turning this pig with hairy knuckles. Anyway, before that, sir, I should have said there's this huge mummy in the library. And every time he hears this music, he starts tearing off all these dirty bandages and smashing through these walls and everything. And the professor can't stop him because he's gone off his rocker and he's bulging his eyes and laughing off. When suddenly this vampire, did I tell you about the vampire? Anyway, before that, there's this vampire who's been dead for thousands of years, but he's a Swiss greengrocer in real life. But the iceberg his coffin's in gets all broken up, sir, when it collides with Dr. Strenkoff's submarine, sir, that's carrying the secret cargo of radioactive rats. Did I tell you about the radioactive rats? Well, anyway, sir, before that, I should have said. Anyway, I put together a collection of about 30 poems which are all about childhood and stuff like that. And I went to see them. It wasn't published till 17 years later. Penguin or Viking rang me up and said he wanted to publish the book, which delighted me. And I had lunch with the editor, which you could do in those days. Now they don't even speak to you. And he said, what are you going to call the collection? I said, no idea. He said, you've got to have a title. I said, oh, I can't think of one. I was telling him about the way I was brought up as a child in Salford Road, Amesbury, Southport, Lancashire. And he said, that's the title, Salford Road. It sounded good to me. But then I knew from reading lots of poems and books that you had to have a poem in it that had the same title as the collection. And I couldn't think of any, I didn't have one. And I was lying half asleep at the back garden in Birmingham one afternoon, and a whole verse drifted to my head from nowhere. It's like somebody whispered in my ear. And it rarely happens, that sort of thing. And I wept, you know, it's the thing. Now, the difficulty was to find another 10 verses to go with that inspiration. As Ben Jonson said, poets are made as well as born. And the verse that came to my head was like this. It said, my friends walked out one summer day, walked singing down the lane. My friends walked into a wood called Time and never came out again. You know, this is terrific. So this is how the poem came, Salford Road. Salford Road is the place where I was born, with a green front gate, a red brick wall, and hydrangeas round the lawn. Salford Road is the road where we would play, where the sky lay over the rooftops, like a friend who'd come to stay. The gardeners lived at 55, the Lunns with the willow tree, Mr. Poole with the flag and the garden pond, and the Hardens at 53. There was riding bikes and laughing till we couldn't laugh anymore, and bilberries picked on the hillside, and picnics on the shore. I lay in bed when I was 4, as the sunlight turned to grey, and I heard the train through my pillow and the seagull far away. And I rose to look out of my window, for I knew that someone was there, and a man stood as sad as nevermore, and didn't see me there. And when I stand in Salford Road and think of the boy who's me, I feel that from one of the windows, someone is looking at me. My friends walked out one summer day, walked singing down the lane. My friends walked into a wood called Time and never came out again. We live in a land called Gone Today that's made of bricks and straw, but Salford Road runs through my head to a land called No More. I remember reading Romanian poet who wrote from train shopping in the 60s. He said being a child was like standing in the field and waving a train going past. And I thought, yes, and getting older is being on the train and somebody else is standing in the field as well. This is my friend John Hemming. His wife died when she was about 37, a lovely girl called Denise Remnant. You don't remember her, do you? No, it was a lovely girl. So he wrote to the Yorkshire Post to find a new woman, and not to the official authorities, but to a letter saying he had a good sense of humour and was looking for a woman certainly and so forth. And he told me all about it, what happened, that he'd sit in a cafe waiting for this assignation, and a lovely blonde would come to the door and wave, and he'd wave back, and she'd walk past him to somebody else. And he said, you know, you only have to say one word, and one phrase can put you off completely. And this woman came in and she never stopped talking, which was fine. It's a common thing. And she said, what's your favourite Bros record? And he knew this relationship was not going to prosper. So this is called Blind Date. It's a woman talking. She says, you are who I think you are, aren't you? I thought you were. You had that look. Pick out a mile. No, Buxel Fizzle do me fine. Look, you won't mind, will you, if I get something off my chest? Well, I don't want you to take this personally, but I don't think much of men. If you'd known my ex, you'd feel the same. No, not hate exactly. He didn't have the character to be someone you could hate. I resented that in him. No, it was just that he was a slimy, spineless, two-timing bastard. I was too stupid to know what was going on between him and that Linda what's-her-name down in graphics. Apart from that, he was perfect. You know, the cheek to introduce me to her at the Staff and Wives shindig that Christmas. I felt sorry for her, really. You feel sorry for anybody who thought my Barry was wonderful. I thought it'd fizzle out, but it didn't. So in the end, I did my big confrontation bit. Of course, he puts on this innocent who me look, but his eyes were all over the place. Yes, I'll have another thing. Does it bother if I smoke? It does some. What was I saying? Oh yes, like I said, he tried to deny it, said it had been Linda's fault. She'd been all over him from the start. Wouldn't leave him alone, or take no for an answer. I was the only one he really loved. I had to believe him. And then he starts crying. Real tears. He thought that'd make it all right. Pathetic. What about me, Barry? I said. What about my tears? What do men know about crying? Where weeping's concerned, I'm the world's expert. He said it was all over between them. I told him it better be, or he wouldn't see the house, the BMW, or the kids again. That really put the frightenings on him. So we were all right for a bit. I got this promotion at Jackson's, area sales, roller blinds. It's very interesting, really. What do you do? Oh, I see, that must be nice. Anyway, he comes to me with this sad story how Linda's 3 months gone by this spotty Herbert in Dispatch, who's still wet behind the ears and everywhere else by all accounts. He said he just felt sorry for her. She being just 18 and everything. And Mum and Dad were Jehovah's Witnesses. We're going to chuck her out. Couldn't we put her up for a few months? Just till everything quietened down. I said to him straight, I said, Barry, tell me the truth. It is all over with you and her, isn't it? He said, what sort of man do you think I am? Do you think I'd lie to you? I didn't answer that. Am I talking too much? Just stop me if I do. Anyway, like a fool, I let her stay. And that Friday she moved in with us. We gave her the room in the back. Got on all right too, I must say. She was good with Philippa and Mark. It was really nice as well, having another woman round the place. She even started decorating the bedroom. Then one afternoon, I had this call from head office. Someone had let them down at the last minute. Could I go down? Could I demo these new age roller blinds at the Broad Street Conference Centre? I'd only got as far as Harbon when I suddenly realised I'd left some costings and some samples in the boot of Barry's car. You can't hurt the Astra in the drawing. Frankly, I'm not surprised at the noise she was making. They heard the door though. I heard this desperate whispering and rustling in our room. When I went up, they tried to cover up the bed. Said they were decorating. I don't know if I cried. I didn't want to in front of her. You know what really hurt? She was even wearing that kimono Barry brought at Rackets for our tent. I just walked out. I went to my mum and dad's. Something cracked inside me. For a year, I didn't go out of the house. I didn't see the kids. I lost the job. Of course, I didn't care, to be honest. I didn't seem to care about anything. It was like I dried up inside. And then one afternoon, I was walking in this bit of garden they had out the back. I heard someone laughing in the greenhouse. The dad was standing there, all tears, leaning on his water bucket. This insect sprayer in his hat, his cap had fallen on the floor. He put his arms around me, and I felt his tears all down my neck. I felt that terrible. I thought, if my old dad can cry for me like that, I must have been so-used to someone once upon a time. The next day I went and started searching likely jobs in red. And now I'm here, a new woman. No, I'll get these. You haven't said much. You're not the quiet type, are you? I hope you're not D. Oh, that's good. They don't like people with D. Can I ask you something? Did you mind? No, it was just I was wondering, what's your favourite Ross record? Excuse my hand shaking. It's not nerves. I have this. Is it dropped in now? And I wrote about. I finished up the published 5 and published 3. The last one was called My Granny is Sumo Resto. I was running out of steam, and this is one of the poems in that book. It's called Life as a Sheep. And I've always thought sheep are not the most intelligent creatures around. They have to think 3 minutes or an hour before they stand up, as opposed to lying down and so forth. And I recite this in a kind of generic imposture. So excuse me, life is a sheep. Sometimes I stand, sometimes I sits, and then stands again, and then sits for a bit. Sometimes I wanders, sometimes I stays, sometimes I choose, sometimes I strays. Sometimes I coughs, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I bleats, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I watch the human race, or smiles to myself, or stares into space. And when I was happy, I dance and sing, but I don't have the knack to do such a thing. At night I lays by the old church steeple and falls asleep by counting people. Oh yes, that's it. Well, I got fed up with all these poems for children and not discussed, but they call it discussing poetry, but weren't serious, about death and solitude. So I thought of this collection of poems called The Dark at the End of the Nursery, which nobody wanted to publish. And so they use the nursery form, nursery rhyme. I love nursery rhymes. And to say something elusive and sort of serious. And this is one called Shadow Play, where a young girl runs out in the garden and her mother has just died. Shadow Play. Anne runs down the garden path as fast as she knows how. Out to the daisy-freckled lawn she calls the here and now. Look, she says, look at my shadow, how it spreads so dark and tall. But when I lie flat with my face in the grass, there's no shadow of me at all. Mummy wears lilies pressed to her breast. The car is long and black. Look at the game I'm playing, says Anne. It's called Pushing the Shadows Back. And this is about a boy, a lonely boy, called The Letter. Robin goes walking where the strange things are, down through the garden, but not too far. Robin leaves a letter on the greenhouse shelf, leaves a long letter addressed to himself. Robin in the playground, but no one wants to play. So he walks down the garden at the end of the day. Down through the garden where the world shines green, to see the greenhouse. It's a postman's speech. And I think, excuse me, page 59. This is written for this establishment. The assembly rooms, they had a festival or something, and they asked me to write a poem or a series of poems from them. And this is one that thing they ran called the Classic Cinema Club. The Classic Cinema Club was a wonderful place. You'd have a beer. You remember that? Yeah. And you have the candle, and they'd show an old film from the 40s, or even a silent film. It was a lovely occasion. Do you remember that? Yes, it was lovely. So I wrote this poem together, so it's dedicated to this building. We gather here by candlelight to gaze on shadows. Odd pastime this, surrendering our diverse selves to occupy a dream that's not our own. Strange too, that what is nothing really but a mote-filled sphere of light that plays upon this simple stretched white sheet should thus awake our passive hearts to laughter, to regret and pain. And those whose travails we now revisit here, Gary Cooper, Buster Keaton, Greta Garbo, Fred Astaire, somehow become familiars whose myriad fictive lives we've grown to know as well as our own flesh. Gloria Swanson, Orson Welles, Arletty, Jean Gabin. And with this, a sense of all those other selves who we once were comes sweeping back to us across the years. How we slumped in plush back rows of smoke-filled palaces, our eyes raised to the kissing stars upon the screen, urging our timid adolescent arms to rise and fold about the enticing but forbidden waists of girls whose names we now can scarce recall. Now, here they are once more, those long, cold stars, larger than life and younger here than we shall ever be. Lana Turner, Jimmy Stewart, Judy Garland, Cary Grant. And we rise up and meet them on some central ground, the brave ones, the comic, the beautiful, and the sad. And all we've ever been to one another rises up like distant memories we somehow almost had. I'm going to show a bit of a film now, which Phil over here shot many years ago. I wrote a musical about Rupert Bear. Because I'd been to see a rock opera and I thought it was awful. It was about a religious subject. And I thought I must write a revenge on this. I've never written a piece of music, but I couldn't sing, I can't play an instrument. And I sat in the bath and sang bits of tunes into a cassette, and then added the words and treated and so forth. And we took it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and it was a great success, strangely enough. And I met this girl, Ruby, who was about 18 or 19, who left school, and she played Lily Duckling. And I played Dr. Krabs, who was a baddie, who abducted her, and I had to change the title from Rupert to Rumpus because of copyright. And Edward Trump became Eddie the Trunk, and so forth and so on. And she was abducted by Dr. Krabs and forced to dance naked in a cage in his estaminet on Sunday day. And Ruby sang this song, so we've got this film.
We don't mind the rain, walking down the lane, walking down the Stockwood Road again, because we're going home, where we come from, going home, left bad times behind. you gonna do now the coal's gone out and go, go? What you gonna do now the fun's gone out and fall? What you gonna do is sing along with Reggie and Bill and Pork and Edmund Trump. Walking in a line with these friends of mine, going where the sunshine always shines. When the harbor sang upon my back, hit the road like Jack along the track that leads us back to Southwood Town again. What you gonna do now the gold's gone out and go, go? What you gonna do now the fun's gone out and fall? What you gonna do is sing along with Reggie and Bill and Pork and Edmund Trump. What you gonna do